Okay. Okay, so basically just gonna hang out for a minute. Gonna wait for people to hop in, and then I can start. It seems like there's a delay, so I guess we'll just keep that in mind in the future. Oh yeah, no, I'm watching the live stream. Looks super behind. Okay. Groovy. I guess I should open up the stream on my phone too, just to make sure everything is good. Okay. Okay. Basically just gonna hang out for a minute. Gonna wait for people to hop in, and then it seems like there's a delay, so I'm super sorry about the lag, but we're just gonna roll with it, I think. I'm not sure how I can fix that. Thank you, Shelby, for letting me know about that. I kind of realized it a minute ago. I was like, oh no, but I think we're kind of stuck with that. So we'll give it a few more minutes, and then we can start talking about organization. Okay. So, if it's cool, I'll give it like 5 more minutes. Just see if anyone else wants to pop in. I just sent a link to my chapter. We'll see. Give it a few more minutes. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with all that. We're just not going to be in real time, I guess. I'm sure it'll be better once I actually start talking, because then it's just continuous information, but when we're waiting, it's kind of weird. It's also funny because I'm listening on my phone just to make sure that everything is right and like everything is working out fine. So like I'll say something and then like maybe a minute later I'll hear it on my phone and then I'm just like, oh, okay, that's how this is gonna go. But that's okay. Give it like 4 more minutes. I'm listening on my phone just so things right and like everything say something, and then like maybe a minute later I'll hear it on my phone, and I'm just like, oh, okay, gotta go. But that's okay. Give it like 4 more minutes. Give it like a few more minutes. Unless we want to start now. I'm just not sure if anybody else wants to tune in. So I'd rather give people the benefit of the doubt before we get going, because I feel like it's always worse to pop into something like when it's already started and then you're just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Also, thank you, Shelby. I just got your email. Great, thank you for the Facebook sharing. Give it like another minute or two and then we'll get going. Oops, I did not mean to do that. I did not mean to do that again. Oops. Okay. I think we're good to start just because I'm thinking with the lag, like, it'll be like 10 minutes in by the time it starts, so I'm just gonna go ahead, and then I guess, we'll meet at the finish line. So, obviously my CMES is on organization, specifically the organization of your organization, as in, sorry, I have a clock in the background. Basically we're gonna talk about how you can make the most of your executive board, how you can promote good communication within your chapter, and how you yourself can organize different elements of your chapter in order to create a well-oiled machine, as a chapter should be. So we're going to first talk about my chapter specifically in order for you to understand where I'm coming from. So IOTA Epsilon at Capital University, that is my chapter. We have 11 active members currently with 1 conditional member. I would say that's about average size for us. The biggest our chapter's been, when I've been in it, was 16 or 17 sisters. The smallest it's been has been 9. So this is like pretty good actually for us. We're just small because we come from a really small school and we compete with 3 other music orgs, well, music and arts orgs, so it happens. Our executive board is a little bit different than I imagine a couple people's chapters are. We have a president, a VPM, a VPSP, and we have secretary treasurer combined into 1 position due to our size. And then same deal with officer of public relations historian. That's also 1 combined position. If our chapter is bigger, we'll split those out. We only recently combined secretary treasurer. So in relation to organizational things, if I say like, oh, our OPR does this, that might not be the case for you just because of the way we're structured, but just letting you know where we come from. And like it says on the slide, when our chapter is bigger, we also have a service chair and a social chair, whereas the service chair helps the VPSP with service projects, social chair helps the VPSP with social projects. Pretty straightforward kind of stuff. We don't have any committees due to our size. We're too small to do that, just because if we did have committees, pretty much everybody would have to be on a committee, and they'd have to be like 2 or 3 people, because there's 5 standing committees. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. We've never had them in my time, but everyone would have to be committed to one, and we don't want to do that, so we've suspended constitution bylaws. So we won't be talking about committees just because I have no experience with that, and that will not change unless a million people join IOTA Epsilon out of nowhere. But so I'm specifically referring to our executive board. I like to start with the executive board as the starting point, because your e-board is your branch, your e-board is your root if you're a tree, and then your general sisters are your branches. Your e-board is your foundation, and if your executive board is not working together as a unit, as a team, then the chances of your chapter being successful are a lot smaller. And they're the core of your organization and your organization of your organization. So that's a typo in the slide. Sorry, it says if the board is not thriving, it makes it much more difficult for the board to thrive. I mean, for the chapter to thrive. Sorry. But anyways, so the best way to keep your executive board strong is to consistently meet and keep a group chat for your executive board. Like you'll see on this slide, I went back to the very beginning of our executive board's group chat. We change it every time there's a new election cycle. So we're actually going to vote next week on new VPM and OPR historian, so we're going to change this chat up a little bit, but we communicate in Slack, which I'll talk about later. But point being, keeping a group chat for your board lets you guys communicate instantly with each other if there's something going on. An example in my chapter would be, I don't actually... Okay, I'll talk about it, yeah. So there was somebody in a different organization on campus had a problem with the way that Tau Beta Sigma was basically going forward with an idea. And as soon as that we were aware of that, we were able to come together as a board, talk about it, work through that kind of thing. So having a group chat is really good for those emergent situations that come up, because if you don't have a group chat, it's a lot harder to get everyone in one place and do organization things like that. Also, our executive board meets once a week for several reasons. First, so we can prepare our reports for chapter, because it's always good to come in prepared. Second, to talk about things that happen over the week and things in the future. And third, to talk about any of those emergent situations that come up. If your chapter does not already meet once a week for eBoard, I would highly recommend that you do that. It also creates it promotes a bond among you guys, because it really makes you guys more of a team than anything. I know our executive board, we get coffee every Friday, and to me, that's a really good, both brainstorming area, but it's also a good time for social purposes too. I'm assuming that every chapter meets once a week. I'm pretty sure that's standard, but if not, consider doing it, and also having a group chat. The other thing too is, in order to have a strong executive board, you need to hold each other accountable. So if you need something done, just ask that board member, for an example, hey, how is this event coming along? Hey, how is this paperwork coming along, not coming done. Sorry. I know there's been times where I've dropped the ball, and there's times where others have dropped the ball. And for me personally, it always helps me for someone to say, hey, remember to do this. And I'm like, oh yeah, thank you. But you also need to understand that there's a fine line, and you got to make sure that you're not, I don't want to say harassing, because that's a strong word. So I guess I'll say you want to make sure that you're not being overly persistent with your board members. If I had a problem with this when I was VPSP, actually. I would reach out to everyone on board and I'd say, hey, how's this going? How's this, how are you doing, blah, 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 constantly. And that can be really grating. So to me, it's about finding that fine line between holding each other accountable and still making sure that things are done while also respecting personal boundaries. I know a workaround for that you could just say, what's a good time for you to meet? What's the best time for you to talk about TBS affairs? Some people work better in the morning, some people work better in the evening. So if you know that about the person, you can reach out to them at that time to ask them questions. But the point being, holding your executive board accountable and communicating with each other and meeting regularly is the best way to make sure you're all doing what you need to do. And in order for your chapter to be strong, your board needs to be strong. And I never think about decisions for the chapter until I talk to the board. So the board is always the starting point. So yeah, that's how you can make the most of your executive board. And if there's any questions about that, we can talk about that later. So the next step, once you have a strong board established, is communication. To me, communication is the foundation of a strong organization. If you do not have good communication, you will not be as successful. An example would be, in my chapter, we've done a lot of hard work in the past few years, just getting our organization together and the organization of our organization together. And I would say that somewhere where we were kind of dropping the ball a little bit was communication in terms of on the district and national level. I know for me as a general member, when I first joined IOTA Epsilon, I was not aware of a lot of the district and national programs, and that's not a knock at anyone on previous boards. Their previous boards have done fantastic jobs. It's just something that we've worked to improve over time. If you're all on the same page about both local, national, and district affairs, then you can move better as an organization. You can cater things. Oh, hang on. Shelby, did the stream stop? That's a good question. Did the stream stop for anybody? I hope not. Okay. I'm checking on my phone. Okay, okay, cool. If the stream dipped out for some reason, I'll just give a brief recap of the executive board stuff, just in case. I'll be quick. So, point blank, the executive board is the core of your organization. If they're not strong, you're not going to be able to thrive as well. Just consistently meet as a board, keep a group chat running, hold each other accountable, but not to the point where you're nagging. That's essentially it. In case that cut out. If it did, sorry. I'm not sure why. Anyways, back to the original point of good communication. My chapter has worked really hard on that in the past few years. And now we're all I would argue we're pretty much in the loop on everything going on the district and national level, which helps us craft our events. It helps us come up with ideas. Focus on 5, we've become a lot better with that. We're on track to get all 5. Okay, I guess the stream cut out for everybody. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Anyways, communication is important. So we're going to talk about a couple different ways to communicate. And I will say that my chapter has had experience in all of these ways, and some work better for large groups, some work better for small groups. It just depends. So I'm going to break those down individually and just talk about some strengths and weaknesses. So we'll start with Facebook. I feel like a lot of chapters have Facebook pages. That's really common. District nationals have Facebook pages, which are great. If you're not already following them, you should. Also, their Instagrams are good, but that's a different conversation. So there's a couple advantages with Facebook that I think set it apart from like all the other methods of communication. First being that on Facebook, multiple people can have an administrative role in a group page. So you could have, if you wanted to, you could have your entire board be moderators on your page, or you could just have your pres and your VPM, however you want to do it. That's harder to do on other forms of communication like Snapchat. And another advantage of Facebook is that it's really easy to share posts from districts or nationals. Like if there's something that district posts like, oh hey, convention information updated because of coronavirus, you can easily just share that post into your page and then everyone's in the loop immediately. That's really nice, and we actually stopped using our Facebook actively, so that's one thing that I miss because it's a lot harder to communicate information without that, but I'll explain why we don't use Facebook anymore. Okay, so another advantage of Facebook, creating polls is really good because then you can get quick group opinion on something. So if you're like, hey guys, what's your opinion on doing this kind of event? Or what do you think the bands would most benefit from doing? That kind of thing. It's really easy to see how everybody feels within like an hour, I would say. Sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes, yeah, like an hour. I don't know. My chapter's small, so we kind of know how we feel really fast. Another thing, too, is Facebook Messenger comes with it, obviously. So that's really nice. My chapter doesn't really use Facebook Messenger. We used it to host actually virtual chapter for the first time, and it was alright, but the advantage of Facebook Messenger, especially if you're a larger chapter, like, I don't know, like Roe or Kai, you guys are pretty big, you could communicate much more quickly with each other than you would on a Facebook page, because on a Facebook page it takes a little bit of time to comment and like everything and get back to people, but if you have a Facebook group chat going, then you could message time-sensitive information really quickly. That's actually one of the disadvantages of Facebook. Time-sensitive messages don't guarantee that people will read them in time if you post in a group on a page. Facebook Messenger is a different situation, but yeah, that's about that. That's that on that. Sorry. Another disadvantage of Facebook is that setting up special groups, for example, like if you want to set up a committee, or if you're a larger chapter and you have established committees, it's hard to have specific groups on Facebook Messenger because they don't feed into a main group. On something like Slack, which we'll talk about in a little bit, all the groups kind of branch off of each other, so they're all in one place. Whereas if you have say you're on say you have an executive board chat, say you have a general chapter chat, say you are on 1 or 2 committees, that's 4 different group chats that you have to manage in 4 different places, and they get mixed in with your regular conversations with your Facebook friends. So that's really confusing. Well, I guess it's not confusing. We're smart people. It's just complicated when there's easier ways to do it. That's my opinion on Facebook Messenger. We stopped using it mainly for the purpose of not getting time-sensitive messages fast, like spread to the group fast enough. So we switched over to Snapchat, which we'll talk about in a second. But here's examples of IOTA EPSILON'S pages. We have a business page, which I don't think has been used since last year. It's a little bit outdated because it says we have 15 members, and that's not the case anymore. And then that's our social page on the right. That's kind of like our meme page where we just share things from Facebook, or we have social events. Like you can see that I said when I was the VPSP, we did like a summer movie night, and that was like the link. So we moved over to Snapchat next. We tried using Snapchat just because it's such a fast medium of communication. So we had a business page, well, a business chat and a social chat. It was called Tau Business Sigma and Tau Beta Social. We still have Tau Beta Social, which is really fun, and it's nice to communicate with alumni in that way because alumni are in that chat. But anyways, advantages of Snapchat. Also, this is irrelevant. I wish you could see my hands because I'm talking with my hands and there's nobody here. There's no one here. Anyways, advantages of Snapchat. It's, I would argue, the fastest way possible to ensure that everyone reads something. I know when I was VPSP, I would send a lot of, like, hey guys, we have an event right now. Please come. Or hey guys, keep this in mind. Or hey guys, I need you to read this, like, right now. And it was really good for getting the messages out to everyone, except the problem is, which I'll skip ahead a little bit, the problem with Snapchat is messages disappear in 24 hours if they're not saved. So if it's something that's time sensitive but like it's reoccurring, that information is gone unless someone saves it, which I'm assuming people do because we did, but it's still something to think about. The other thing is it's really hard to communicate long messages or information from districts and nationals without A, being annoying, B, being excessive. But like Shelby said, Snapchat is the bomb for social groups, which I'll hop back up to the advantages for a second in saying that sorry, my clock is going off again. It goes off every 15 minutes, so I guess that's how I know how long I've been talking. But anyways, Snapchat's good for sending pictures, which is especially really fun in a social group because then you can send memes. Like my chapter just sends, we send each other license plates that are words. So, like, if a license plate said, I don't know, like, peach or something, we'd send it. It's cute. We've been doing that for a while. But back to the disadvantages, there's a group size limit. So if you're in a bigger chapter, the group limit is at 32 people. So you will not be able to have everyone in one place. It's bomb for a chapter like IOTA Epsilon because we're tiny, and we can still have alumni in there, and they're our social page, and we're just hanging out, and it's a good time. But if you're bigger, like, that's probably not enough for your chapter. So you can't really do a Snapchat group. The other thing, too, is it's so much harder to get chapter consensus because you can't do a poll. You just text them and you say, hey, guys, what do you think? And then, like, you gotta wait for everyone individually to text back, and that's just a whole hassle that is not needed. So we stopped using our business page to move on to Slack, just because it was kind of the best of both worlds between Snapchat and Facebook, and I highly recommend it, and we'll talk about it right now. After our IOTA Epsilon example, it's Tau Beta Social. We're cute. I like to think we're cute. And we talk to our alumni, and we can invite them to stuff this way too. And we have an alumni page on Facebook, but nobody really checks it. So this is a more modern way. That's the other thing too, like Shelby said. I forgot to mention that in here. But if your chapter is going to have a Tau Beta Sigma Snapchat page, you cannot have it be public just because that goes against national policy because it's not supported. Something like Facebook is because nationals are on Facebook. Something like Instagram is because nationals are on Instagram. They are not on Snapchat, so therefore not something that is public knowledge, and you cannot promote your Snapchat. So thank you, Shelby. That's really important, and I should have put that on there. Anyways, next method, Slack, which I would call the happy medium. On Slack, you can have private channels for your e-board and committee, so that's earlier, like I was talking about, where you have this method like lets you have everything in one place. Unlike Facebook Messenger, where like you'd have 4 different group chats, but they'd be scattered all throughout your Messenger app because you talk to other people. Whereas on Slack, you have a specific tabulated. Oh God, what did I just do? Sorry. You have a specific Tau Beta Sigma channel, so all of your information is in one place. It's really nice. So everything is in one app with different channels. Creating polls is also really easy on this because there's literally a feature to do polls. We've used it several times just to get quick consensus. It's also really fast for time-sensitive messages because it's essentially a group chat with a few extra perks. So I think it's really nice just because everyone responds just as fast as they would on Snapchat, but not as fast as they would on Facebook, or they're faster than they would be on Facebook and just about as fast as they would on Snapchat, but with the addition of getting opinion much easier because there's polls and things like that. Also, there's something called Slackbot on Slack, and Slackbot is basically if you need help with anything, you just have to ask Slackbot and it'll tell you how to do it. Like I know when I was getting adjusted to moving over to the Slack, I had a lot of questions, and Slackbot is really helpful for that. Whereas other apps like Snapchat and Facebook, even though like they're more user friendly because we know them, if you were hypothetically, I guess, not versed in those, they're a little bit harder to get set up, which kind of contradicts what I said down here. The disadvantage of Slack is that it takes longer to get everyone set up. But I mean that more in a way of getting everyone's emails hooked up, because you have to send an email out to everyone, they have to accept it, and then they have to get in the group, and it's kind of like I don't want to say a mess, but it's kind of chaotic for a hot second until everybody gets set up. But once you're set up, Slack is a dream. And I want to actually shout out a member of my chapter, Carly Kime, for introducing me to Slack. She introduced our chapter to Slack, and she uses it for other organizations, and she was like, you guys should try this, and it's been great, and I'm very grateful to Carly every day. But specifically about Slack, it's a really good program, and you should use it. Well, program, I sound like an old person. It's a good app. You should use it if you're looking for like a happy medium between something like Facebook or something like Snapchat. So there's some examples of IOTA EPSILON'S Slack. We're pretty small because like we don't have a lot of channels because again we're small, and also because of coronavirus we're kind of just hanging out till the end of the year, working on elections and digital service things for our professors and stuff like that. Our workspace is Tau Beta Sigma IE, so as you can see there's multiple workspaces that you can have. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, Nathan. Sorry, I'm just like reading through the chat as I'm presenting. Members can definitely become overwhelmed with posts. I know that was happening on our Snapchat because I would send a lot of VPSP related things. And it's really easy to become desensitized, which is another advantage of Slack actually, because you have so many different channels, if you become overwhelmed because there's so many different avenues of information, you can just tune into the specific one that you need. For example, like in our you see in our example we have one that's called the committee that plans parties. That was for we were going to do a 15th TBS IOTA Epsilon birthday party because it's our 15th birthday, which is really cool. And that channel is just for people who are going to help plan that. So like consolidating your information into different channels is a way to make sure that nobody's getting overwhelmed. I'm thinking about revamping our Slack over the summer and creating even more specific channels. Like this is like, I don't know, this is service business, this is social business, this is general business, that kind of thing, just so that way no one's overwhelmed. My phone just died. That's fun. Okay. So I won't be able to see the chat from this point on, so apologies. But you can mute certain channels too if they're overwhelming. So Slack is a good thing for or reversing, I guess, or canceling out desensitization, just because then you only tune into what you need to or what you want to. So that's like our happy medium. As you can see, we have like a business chat, executive board that's private, so no one besides eBoard can hop in there, which is another advantage because they're all visible, but only some are accessible by certain people. And then we have DMs if you need to message anyone in your chapter. Some of us have silly names, like Ashley's name is funny. It's Ash Chief. That's probably not TBS appropriate, so I apologize. Last thing I want to talk about with communication, Zoom. We're all probably dealing with it right now. I wouldn't be talking about it if we weren't experiencing the COVID-19 stuff right now, but if you're not using Zoom for chapter, I highly recommend that you consider it, just because Zoom is probably the best way to get a large group of people together. I know our chapter tried Facebook Messenger, and the limit on that is 8 people, so we needed to use Zoom just because we're a little bit bigger than that. Advantages of Zoom: there's no limit to the amount of people you can have on a group call, so this will work for a chapter of any size. And if for any reason you're unable to meet in the same place, which, like, right now, yeah, the software is the most effective way of communicating versus something like Skype or Discord in my personal experience. Also, the group host has power in the call, which is helpful for maintaining Robert's rules and decorum, that kind of thing. I can mute and unmute people as needed. And also the ability for members to mute themselves is also helpful, because if someone wants to, they can chime in with something and then mute themselves. And then there's also a group chat feature where if there's a question, someone can just pop in there. So far it's been going pretty well. Disadvantages of Zoom: one that's not on here, but I realized when we had chapter last night, it'll actually, if you're using the free version of Zoom, it'll cap out at 30 minutes. So you are booted from the call, or I lied, it's 40 minutes. It's actually 40 minutes. Sorry, I just got something in my throat that was uncomfortable for everybody involved. But you get booted from a Zoom chat and a Zoom call if you've been on it for longer than 40 minutes, so keep that in mind for chapter. Either find a way to consolidate chapter or do 2 separate calls. Yesterday, my chapter did 2 separate calls. For elections, because we're doing elections next week, we definitely need to do 2 separate calls. Gonna have to figure that one out. I will say that's another disadvantage. Doing elections on Zoom, if anyone's in that boat, is gonna be tough, because, as you know, people need to leave so we can discuss and vote, and it's the best we have, though, so we'll figure it out. Anyways, another thing with Zoom is there's potential audio and visual delays depending on the user's Wi-Fi. I'm sure you guys are experiencing this in your classes if you're doing Zoom. It's happened, and it will continue to happen, but it is what it is, worth talking about. So anyways, now that we've talked about communication, let's talk about some methods of organizing your chapter, because like I said, the hierarchy would be like the executive board's your root, then communication is the foundation on top of that root, and then organization itself. Finally, I know, we're doing a presentation on organization, and we just now got to organization, but it's all organization. So we're going to talk about ways that worked for IOTA EPSILON'S specifically, just because that is my background. Team Google Drive and a master spreadsheet, and they are both wonderful. So starting with a team drive, I want to shout out my sister, Mary Longsdorf, if she's still watching. I can't tell because my phone is dead. But she was, at the time, she was our secretary-treasurer, now current VPSP. She made our team drive for us, and it's been great. I'll show pictures in a second, but having a team Google Drive for your entire chapter is just like Google Drive, except everyone can see it. So it lets your sisters, your sponsor, your DOB, alumni for certain documents if you need them to look at things, life members, that kind of thing. It gives everyone access to all of your chapter's important documents. Like, we keep our minutes in there, we keep budgets, we keep history, we keep our master spreadsheet in there, we keep a lot in there, and I'll show you in a second. But the other thing, too, is having a team Google Drive allows sisters to get information about TBS very quickly on their phones. If I say in chapter, hey guys, I need you to find this thing in the Google Drive, we'll pull it up really quickly. The other thing with that would be our master spreadsheet, which I'll talk about in due time. I'll have people pull up master spreadsheet, which is in the Google Drive. But point being, Google Drive is really helpful in chapter because it's quick to find everything, really organized, etc. But it is worth noting that Team Drive might not be free for you. It's part of something called G Suite, which is paid. Luckily, Capital pays for G Suite for us. I'm not sure if every university covers G Suite because it's kind of a new thing, but you should definitely look into that because I recommend this just for having all of your stuff in one place. So I am going to now show you examples. This probably looks like a lot, but this is how we do it. So we have everything's alphabetized, of course, because that's how Google Drive organizes things. So we have our budgets, bylaws, constitution. We have folders for every single semester, which you can see that's the last picture. You can tell when we started doing this because there's we have 2015. Surprise, now we have 2019. We started in 2019. We just happened to have, before this we had one Google Drive that only board had access to, and it was very disorganized, so I commend Mary and her efforts to get everything in one place. We also have like our chapter's history, like family trees and stuff, our national hymn parts, stuff for fundraisers, rosters, social media, account information, all that stuff. I'm gonna actually plug my phone in and see if there's any questions about that, because it's really complicated, so give me 30 seconds. Okay. Sorry about that. It's just the more complex things I want. My phone is alive, so I can answer any questions that pop up. So that'll just be a minute. I'll keep going though. So master spreadsheets next. I love our master spreadsheet so much, and that is also thanks to Carly Kime. Carly has been in a lot of positions. I believe at the time Carly was VPSP, and we started using one in 2018, and it is life-changing. So if you don't have a master spreadsheet, I highly recommend creating one. You just make a Google spreadsheet. I'll skip to some pictures. You make a Google spreadsheet, and then you categorize everything. As you can see to the left, we have like our attendance, chapter budget, inventory, like sister recital stuff, scholarship stuff, all in one place. Really easy to look for. We have our schedule. Sorry, my cat just walked in the room. She's a whole baby. Okay, anyways. So having a master spreadsheet for attendance records, contact information, master schedule, etc. is really helpful. It makes everybody accountable, because if you don't have your attendance or schedule visible and commonplace, people could say, well, I didn't know I was missing these many things, or I didn't know we had this. But if it's all in one place on a spreadsheet, you could say, well, you did, because we have it here for you. Oh my goodness, cat. So we have the clearest, most streamlined way of communication possible. I love it so much, so much. The other thing too is if you put all your chapters events in a Google Calendar, you can have your master schedule and your Google Calendar synchronized together, which is really nice. And then everything's on your phone, easy peasy. So I'll go back to the pictures. Like I said, the pictures on the left are the categories we have. They change with each semester, and anyone has access to update information. At the bottom, underneath the categories, is our attendance, which is a little outdated due to the coronavirus stuff, but this was the intended plan for the rest of the semester. We have color codes for like if someone's present but tardy, present, excused absence, unexcused, and then we have color codes for like if something's a degree, if something's a recruitment event, if something's a service, or no, we don't have one for service actually. If it's required, which is service, voluntary, which would generally be social. Additionally, we have on the right side, we have a master schedule, and we have one for each month. We also include university events on there. Everything's color coded, so blue would be chapter, purple is band specific events, red, well, the reddish is campus events at Capitol. We have our members' junior and senior recitals on there in green. So that system is so organized, and I specifically like having the color code just because then I can scroll through and say, okay, this is someone's recital, this is something I have to be at. I'm at everything, of course. I'm the president. I love TBS. But it's just like handy to know what I specifically need to go to, what's a university event, etc. The last picture, I'm just turning my phone back on. The last picture is just our inventory, and that's like not even the whole thing. That's just a small part of it. But those are the first two columns. We have like TBS memorabilia. We have stuff in our craft box. Okay, just hop back on my phone. See, Shelby was talking about elections on Google Hangouts. That's a good question. I don't actually know much about Google Hangouts. That's smart. Originally, what our chapter was gonna do was we were gonna do like Google surveys. We were gonna have like people speak, and then we were gonna discuss, and then I was gonna send out a Google poll. Everyone was gonna take it, turn it back in, and then announce. But that seemed like a lot of steps, so we nixed it. But anyways, back to the master spreadsheet. Yeah, this is just how we do things. And before this, it was really hard to find everything, but now everything's consolidated, and it really, 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 really works wonders for accountability. And it takes a minute to set up, but it's so worth it. And I would not mind sharing a template for anything with anybody, especially stuff like the master schedule and like color coding and that kind of thing. But yeah, that was everything that I wanted to talk about. So does anybody have any questions about anything? I'll wait for the live stream to catch up to me because it's lagging a wee bit. So I'll wait a minute, just hang out. If there's any questions, just let me know and we can talk about other things. So I'll give it like a hot second. Okay. I'm gonna give it a second. Okay. Don't think there's any questions, so apologies to anyone watching this stream in retrospect, just because there's going to be like a minute or two of complete silence while I waited for the live stream to catch up to me. But I think we're good. So anyways, I'm going to end by saying thank you for watching my CMES. Apologies if it's really casual or awkward. This is my first time kind of doing this thing. I was really excited to do it, and it's been really fun. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you, district counselors, for inviting me to do this. I hope this was helpful, and if there's any further questions, please do not hesitate to email me either or at juliavigor@gmail.com, jvigor@capital.edu. Do not care which one. I answer my email the second I get it, so it does not matter. And additionally, if you're looking for templates on anything, advice, whatever, just reach out to me. I'm really open. The other thing, too, is if you want to reach out to IOTA Epsilon about anything specific, like if you want to ask Mary or Carly, the people that I mentioned, like, hey, how did you come up with this idea? I'm sure they'd be willing to talk about it. They're great people. Just catch us at tbs@capital@gmail.com. And, of course, we do have our district email, but tbs@capital is the fastest just because that's the one connected to our team drive, and it's just really streamlined on a Gmail platform. Oh, I'm hearing myself. Oh, that's uncomfortable and getting feedback. Anyways, cool. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope this was a helpful experience for you guys. And much love in the bond, always. Thank you.